I'm back. So I've been away for several weeks, house sitting and going to visit family. So I kind of put the garden on pause for a little bit while I was away. And when I got back, I had something waiting for me. Now, if you had to guess, would it be A, $1 million, or B, another pest problem? Nah, I'm just joking. It was $1 million. So that's really annoying, but I think there's a silver lining here. At the beginning of this year, when I discovered that I had a pest problem, I may have come to conclusions a little bit too soon. When I removed my last tomato plants, I found mealybugs, and I thought maybe that was the root cause of the issue, but there are a bunch of other signs of pests that I ignored that time around, and it wasn't really until this time that everything clicked for me. Ever since I started my tomato plants in this garden, they've been a really big hit for spiders. I'd always come out and see a new addition of spider webs on the tomato plants, and eventually it would kind of overwhelm the plant, and I didn't really think much of it. I don't enjoy spiders. I actually hate spiders. But I figured spiders couldn't really do that much damage to a tomato plant, and I figured they needed somewhere to live, so I just let them be if they didn't attack me. The whole plant basically had like this very fine sheer netting of spider webs all over it. They seem to only really make their nest on like dead tomato leaves and dead parts of the plant. Nope, it is actually spider mites. And spider mites are not good. It took some digging, but as soon as I got to that conclusion, I looked it up and compared that to what's been going on in my garden. It was very apparent that I've always had spider mites. All of my tomato leaves would get like this bronzing effect. It's like little stippled dots, almost like you threw a bunch of pollen on the leaves. And then of course the webs. So that really is a surefire sign of spider mites. Prognosis didn't look good. So I went to the garden store as soon as I got back. I got some neem oil. After reading a bunch of different websites, it seemed like neem oil is a great way to treat pests of that nature. So hopefully, in theory, I can cut down on this spider mite problem, and my tomato plants. That's a good idea, actually. Hopefully my tomato plants are young enough that they can persevere through this infestation and continue to grow. But I mentioned a silver lining here. In all of that research on pests and how to control pests, obviously I've known of insecticides and things that you can, treat your garden with that are either chemical-based or sometimes organic that can be pretty detrimental to the organisms already living there. Neem oil, for example, is toxic to bees. It's toxic to pollinators, so it's not an ideal solution. But in doing this research, I came across a very powerful insecticide that I think will solve all of my problems. And I don't think it's what you're thinking. Flowers seem to be the unspoken hero of pest control. And here's why. Bugs and insects are a natural part of life. They're a natural part of any garden. And depending on what you're trying to achieve in your garden, there are usually what we call good insects and bad insects. Insects that detract from your mission, and then insects that accelerate your progress. And I seem to be missing out on a lot of the good insects. The insects that help promote my plant growth, that help pollinate the vegetables and fruits that I'm growing, but also the ones that help kill the pests that I'm struggling with, the ones that help keep those pests in check and reintroduce good garden ecology. But how do you get those good insects? Where are they? This is an open invitation. My garden's right here. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I'm not attracting that good attention because I haven't really sweetened the deal for them at all. When you look at my garden, it's very apparent. We got tomatoes, onions, we got kale, we have a couple of other things here and there. But what do pollinators actually like? Food. Just like the rest of us. There's no food for pollinators in my garden, so it makes a lot of sense why they've avoided it thus far. So my goal is to try and balance out this garden ecology, see if I can sweeten the deal for the pollinators a little bit, and help reintroduce those good insects to A, promote the health of whatever I'm growing in my garden, and B, try and cut down on the pest problem that I have. I personally have never been that much of a flower person when I've gardened in the past, and what I really enjoy about gardening is growing fruits and vegetables. I've just always found a lot of satisfaction in growing something that I can eat. I like to cook a lot, and when it came to flowers, I never really got the same satisfaction. But what was really helpful for me is learning more about permaculture and this idea that it's less about what you're trying to grow and how to create a supportive framework around the things that you're trying to grow. The things that you're trying to grow usually have a specific set of growing requirements and things that will really help aid their growth. And it's not just food, it's not just water, it's other species, and it's pollinators, and it's worms, it's a whole bunch of things. And flowers and flowering plants are a really great way of bolstering that supportive framework around whatever you're trying to grow. Something I'm also aware of is the importance of supporting native crops and native seeds, native flower seeds in the area that you're in. I live in Southern California, so if I'm going to be planting flowers in my garden, I want to predominantly do mostly native wildflowers if I can. I'm hopeful that highlighting native species will really contribute to the broader ecology around me that extends beyond my yard. So I'm going to see if there are any California native wildflowers that I can plant from seed this late in the game. It's already almost the end of May. And if not, maybe I'll create a list of hand-picked flowers that I can introduce into the garden. The plants that stood out to me the most were lavender and alyssum. There was lavender all the time in my home garden where I grew up, and the bees absolutely loved it. When I was younger, I was terrified of bees, so lavender and I didn't really mix that well. But I do have very strong memories of bees and pollinators really gravitating and flocking towards lavender plants. So it made a lot of sense, and it made me even happier to realize that lavender it seems to be very drought resistant, drought tolerant. In addition to these flowers, I also asked at the garden center about a packet of California native wildflowers that would see any blooming this late in the season, and they weren't very optimistic about it. They pointed me towards something else, which was, actually, I'm not really sure what it is. I may end up planting some of these, but if I'm being honest, I feel a little bit more strongly about supporting native species and being more intentional with what I'm planting in the garden. So I might go back after I've curated a list of individual plants that might flower and give me some growth and activity during the summer. I feel like I should scatter these all around the garden to give the best possible chance of getting pollinators and bees everywhere. It's good to be back. It's been good to be back in the garden, especially. Even though I had a lot of fun traveling and visiting family and all of that, I really appreciate the ability to be in the garden and to have a home base and contribute to something and continue to build something as a continuous project. And I've also really missed contributing to this channel and connecting with you all. So luckily right now I'm in a position where I'm ready to make quite a few more videos and put those out on a more consistent schedule. So keep an eye out for that. Also, we just hit 2,000 subscribers. It's so cool to see so many other people that are enthusiastic about gardening, whatever it may be, whether it's just looking at plants, whether it's nerding out about plant facts and, garden planning. It's awesome to have you. If you're new here, welcome. This is a channel where I just figure things out on the fly as I start my kind of beginner garden space in an apartment in Southern California. And for those of you who have been here the whole time, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. It's been so cool to connect with you and read your comments and really have a little community. So if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to subscribe. Maybe share them with a gardener friend or two that you have. I know you have friends. It's okay. But make sure to tune in next week for another video. And until then, I'll see you next time.